She slammed her hand on the intercom, shouting, "I'm calling 911! He's trespassing!" My wife froze. Her fingers still on the new lock we had just installed on our lake cabin gate. I stepped forward, heart pounding, trying to keep my voice calm. "She can't do that. This is our property." But Karen didn't care. She waved her phone like a badge, yelling to the few neighbors watching, "You can't just change locks. This is HOA property." I felt my blood boil, not just at her lies, but at the crowd she had gathered like it was a show. My wife whispered, "Remember the papers in the car?" I nodded, hiding my panic. Karen had the kind of face that made people believe her nonsense, but she didn't know I had been a legal consultant for years. While she screamed into her phone, claiming false threats, I reached for the property survey and HOA approval letters from the glove compartment. The twist hit like a punch. Karen's voice cracked as she realized someone was quietly recording everything. Then came the first shock. A neighbor who had always stayed out of conflicts stepped forward. "You're lying, Karen. That gate is on their land," he said, pointing at the survey lines. Karen's face shifted from fury to disbelief. She tried to recover, pretending to calm down, but her fake authority was crumbling in front of everyone. My wife's hands trembled slightly, but I whispered, "We've got this. Just stay calm." Before she could call the cops for real, Karen suddenly ran toward the gate, trying to snatch her phone. That's when I saw it, my old military reflexes kicking in. I intercepted her arm, holding her back as she struggled. "Do not touch her," I said, steady but firm. Karen froze, shocked that the man she thought powerless could move with such authority. The camera on my phone caught every second, every scream, every ridiculous accusation. And in that instant, I knew this would go far beyond just a gate. Her fake sense of control was gone, but she wasn't finished. She shouted, "You think you can win? I'll make sure you regret this." And with that, she stormed off to call 911 for real. Little did she know, I had already called the sheriff earlier, explaining everything. When the real deputies arrived, it wasn't just a simple property dispute. Karen's web of lies was about to collapse in front of the whole neighborhood. By the time the sheriff arrived, Karen was already pacing, phone in hand, her voice shrill as she explained her side. "He's threatening us! He's trespassing!" she screamed, pointing at me and my wife like we were criminals. The deputies exchanged skeptical looks as I stepped forward, holding the survey and HOA approvals. "This is our land. We changed the lock because the old one was broken. That's all," I said calmly, letting the papers do the talking. Karen's eyes widened. These were official documents, impossible to ignore. One deputy muttered quietly, "Looks like she's making things up." Karen's face twisted in anger, and suddenly she realized neighbors were filming everything. "You can't record me!" she shouted, but the cameras kept rolling. My wife, keeping composed, added, "We also have security footage of the gate. Every step, every word you said." Karen froze mid-sentence. The second twist landed. Her fake authority was collapsing publicly, and the neighborhood was witnessing it all. Karen lunged toward the deputies, claiming I was intimidating her. That's when I revealed a hidden advantage, my background as a former law enforcement consultant. "Step back. I'm trained to handle these situations," I said calmly. The deputies exchanged glances, realizing Karen had been lying. Her mouth opened and closed, unable to form a convincing statement now that her act was crumbling. Then came the shocking moment. She tried to take the gate keys from my wife, creating a fake threat. I held up the official HOA documentation, and the deputies confiscated her phone for evidence. Karen screamed about unfair treatment. But no one moved. She had created the chaos herself. My wife whispered, "We're going to win this," and I nodded. Every neighbor watching knew this was turning into a decisive victory. The deputies gathered all the evidence while Karen's voice rose into a desperate scream, claiming harassment and threats. But every lie she shouted had already been captured, on my phone, the neighbors' cameras, and the cabin's security footage. I stepped forward, calmly handing over the recordings and pointing to the survey again. "Everything she's saying is false," I said, letting the deputies watch in real time as Karen's version of events crumbled. The third twist hit hard. She wasn't just losing the argument. She was being exposed to the entire neighborhood she tried to control. Karen tried one last move, yelling, "You can't prove what you recorded is real!" But the deputies ignored her. The crowd of neighbors who had been watching silently started whispering and filming her meltdown. Every gesture, every lie, every attempt to intimidate had turned against her. My wife squeezed my hand, whispering, "I can't believe this is finally happening." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and triumph. Then came the fourth, shocking twist. Karen tried to claim the HOA had authority to override the survey, waving a crumpled notice. I calmly revealed my final ace. "I've reviewed HOA records. This notice is completely fabricated. You have no legal standing here." Her face went pale, and for the first time she looked small, like the tyrant she pretended to be was nothing more than a paper tiger. The deputies moved in, explaining that they would investigate her. Impersonation of authority and false reporting. Karen's screams grew louder, but no one backed down. My wife turned to me, eyes wide but smiling. "I think this is really over." I looked around at the neighborhood, cameras still rolling, papers in hand, and whispered, "Not yet. Let's make sure she can't come back." In that moment, I realized justice wasn't just about the law. It was about showing everyone that power can't hide behind lies. Karen was finally escorted away by the deputies, still screaming about unfair treatment, but the crowd had already turned against her. Neighbors whispered, shook their heads, and some quietly clapped, realizing they had witnessed the collapse of someone who had acted above the law for too long. My wife leaned against me, exhausted but smiling. "It's finally over." I shook my head slightly, knowing the final step of justice had to be flawless. I called the HOA office directly, providing copies of all evidence. Within hours, Karen's fake notices were declared void, and she was officially barred from issuing any HOA warnings or entering anyone's property. The final twist landed hardest. Karen, who had built her identity on fake power, was now powerless, publicly exposed and humiliated. Her reputation in the neighborhood was ruined, and everyone who had watched the ordeal knew exactly who she was. Then came the emotional closure. I watched my wife unlock our cabin gate, her hand steady this time. "We protected our home and each other," she whispered. The sun reflected off the lake, a silent applause for justice served. I felt the weight lift, knowing that our family, land, and freedom were safe. The final viral line came naturally. As I said aloud to the quiet crowd, "I didn't fight for this country to be told I can't protect my own land." The story ended with a sense of relief, triumph, and deep satisfaction. Karen's lies were exposed, our family's honor intact, and every twist, fake cops, fake notices, false threats, had led to a clean legal victory. The cabin gate now swung freely, a testament to truth, justice, and resilience, and a warning that entitlement and lies can never overpower courage and preparation.